How long did he live?
For 15 months.
No.
Sorry.
This is where I couldn't explain myself properly. This is the prophecy of Hazrat Masih which he made after the debate was over on the last day. He said, during this debate I have been praying to Allah to show some additional sign from yourself, from heavens, so that the truth may become manifest for the people who are incapable of just following the arguments and counter-arguments and the intricacies of these things. Everybody should be able to see this ijaz openly. So last night, according to that day when Mr. declared, he said, the previous night I have been categorically told by God that if this man did not repent, did not mend his ways, then within 15 months from that, he is going to be shoved into Haviya, and nothing will be able to save him. But if he repents and shows fear of Allah, then this will not happen. This I'll read the wording in Urdu and then I'll translate it verbatim. From that you will be able to understand that this was the conditional promise made, or conditional inzar given to Abdullah Atham at the end of the Mubahala, of this Munazara. First of all, when Hazrat Masih mentioned this, these were the words I am going to read. आज रात जो मुझ पर खुला वो ये है कि जबकि मैंने बहुत तज़र्रुर और इब्तिहाल से जनाब इलाही में दुआ की, तो इस अमर में फैसला कि तू इस अमर में फैसला कर, और हम आजिज़ बंदे हैं, तेरे फासले के फैसले के सिवा कुछ नहीं कर सकते। तो उसने मुझे ये निशान बशारत के तौर पर दिया है, इस बहस में दोनों फरीकों में से जो फरीक अमदन झूठ को इख्तियार कर रहा है और सच्चे खुदा को छोड़ रहा है और आजिज इंसान को खुदा बना रहा है। आई एम गोइंग टू ट्रांसलेट वेदर यू अंडरस्टैंड। वो इन्हीं दोनों मुबाहसा के लिहाज से यानी फी दिन एक महीना लेकर यानी 15 माह तक हाविया में गिराया जाएगा और उसको सख्त जिल्लत पहुंचेगी बशर्ती के हक की तरफ रुजू ना करे, और जो शख्स सच पर है और सच्चे खुदा को मानता है उसकी इससे इज्जत जाहिर होगी, और उस वक्त जब ये पेशगोई ज़ुहूर में आवेगी, बाज़ अंधे सुजाखे किए जाएंगे और बाज़ जंगले चले लगेंगे और बाज़ बहरे सुनने लगेंगे। These are the very words in which he announced this prophecy. He said, after presenting my case to Allah with absolute humility and crying before Him, I begged Him to show us a sign from yourself. Then last night I was told that this is a sign which is going to be vouched to you. He said, इस बहस में दोनों फरीकों में से जो फरीक अमदन झूठ इख्तियार कर रहा है, out of the two parties locked in this debate, the one which is intentionally telling lies, this was the first condition, and leaving the only one true God makes a God out of a humble servant of God. That party would meet its ignoble or disastrous end by the end of the 15 months starting from that. Because there are 15 days for the munazara. For each day one month will stand to represent the day. So that was the significance of 15 months. بشرطے کہ حق کی طرف رجوع نہ کرے, on the condition that he does not repent and mend his ways and is inclined towards truth. If he does so, then he will not die within 15 months. Now, first of all, the word death was not used, but he will be shoved into Haviya. Haviya could be taken as death, or as Mr. Islam translated it, disgrace, and to be dishonored utterly. That also is a translation of Haviya which Mr. Islam has mentioned here. اور اس وقت جب یہ پیشگوئی ظہور میں آئے گی, when and at the time when this prophecy is fulfilled, it would be then that the blind would begin to see. It would be then that those who are dumb will begin to speak. Will begin to, those which are cannot walk on their legs will begin to walk, and those who are deaf and dumb will be cured and begin to see. Here, these are the words. Now, what happened to Abdullah Atham after this? Sheikh Noor Ahmed, the proprietor of Riyadh Hind Press of Amritsar, published his written statement because he was following the moves of Abdullah Atham wherever he went. And the account published by him during that period is the most important thing. And there are other evidences which will follow later on. He said that first of all, when Hazrat Muslim mentioned this prophecy, we saw him trembling with fear. He jetted his tongue out, held it with his finger, and said, who it is who abuses the Holy Prophet of Islam? I don't. I'm not doing it. And repeatedly said that I cannot dream of insulting Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first sign appeared there and then. And the condition was partially fulfilled. And the second thing, when this happened, three very important personages of non-Ahmadi Muslims who were also watching the proceedings, they got initiated into Ahmadiyya at the hand of Muslim. One Mia Nabi Bash, one Qadi Amir Hussain Sahib Bhelvi, a great, very knowledgeable scholarly man, and Colonel Altaf Ali Khan. At that time, to be in the British Army, to be a colonel was a very big thing, It was like a full left general or something. In those days, very few people were raised beyond the status of what we call rankers. Rankers they're called. So these people stood witness that what they saw was definitely a victory granted to Masih Maud Islam by Allah. Otherwise they wouldn't have accepted Ahmadiyyat at that time. Now then begins the fate of Atham, how it is unfolded, how he behaves. But that I'll speak of after the translation, not before that.
مش هتبدأ تترجم؟
First of all, he says there are two parties involved. That party which believes in an artificial, synthetic God which is made out of humans, that is the party which will come to a disgrace. Who have concocted a God out of a humble human, that is Christians. That party who has deserted the true God and accepted the God, the Son of God, that party, according to God, is going to see this disgrace which is mentioned here and will be punished by being shoved into Haviya. Please? But if that party does this and that, then they will escape. Now this Nur Ahmad Sahib, Sheikh Nur Ahmad, has published a detailed account of what happened to Abdullah Atham, because he was pursuing him and monitoring all that happened to him. So first of all, this idea came to him because he happened to meet the chef of Abdullah Atham, the chief cook of Abdullah Atham, who had been dismissed from service. And this ex-cook who had been dismissed from the service, when inquired, why have you been dismissed? He said, because I was there one night when I saw Abdullah Atham under terrible fear of something happening to him. And he was so obsessed with the idea that he was going to die that he jumped from the bed and fell down on the floor. So restless and tossing right and left. And he said, oh, I'm gone, nothing can save me now. When he said, I witnessed this, the other priests who were watching him and guarding him against any rumors which may spread out, when they noticed that this is a Muslim cook who has witnessed this, they dismissed him from service. And after that, according to this report, they posted sentries in front of his bungalow, who were instructed strictly never to permit any Muslim to enter that bungalow to meet this man. Be it an Ahmadi or a non-Ahmadi, it doesn't make any difference. No Muslim would be permitted to see this man because he was in a state of terror. Then they kept him busy playing chess or showing him magic lanterns and doing day and night, but he worsened and still worsened. Nothing could cure him of this terrible fear of impending death. Then it so happened that people around him, the Christian priests, who were quite healthy and normal and not very old either, they began to die one after the other. One of them ran from Amritsar out of the fear that it may be a haunted place. While he was leaving Amritsar, he had a heart attack in the train and died in the train. One, a very important member of the church, whose name was Priest Wright, he must have been an Englishman, it was a British church which was organizing all this. He suddenly died as well, without any rhyme or reason. Then they published, their comments, expressed their grief which was published in the press. These are the strange words. इसका हवाला नहीं है. This is very important. We must have. इसमें लिखा हुआ है number 2. असल किताब के नीचे हवाला होगा. Please find out. You see, I am asking him to give the reference of this very important confession, because in obituary to him, God made them commit this mistake. They said, tonight we were beaten by the staff of God's wrath in a manner that we could not expect. And that sword of Allah struck us while we were least expecting it. This is how this Padri Wright died. You see? So terror was encircling and enclosing and becoming tighter and tighter around this man. But because he was all the time repenting, so how could God break his promise? But he was preparing all this around him, so that everybody should see that the prophecy has been fulfilled. And that man has reached utter disgrace. And people around him started dying and being afraid of the prophecy. This was the terror which was struck into the hearts of the Christian leaders involved in this munazara or this debate. Then when the Christians around, they got absolutely disappointed in what was happening to Abdullah Atham, and no amount of encouragement could cure him of this obsession. Then they decided to remove him from Amritsar to Ludhiana, which was a very important stronghold of Christianity in those days. So there also he became restless. Then he was sent from there to Gujarat. Still, that fear would not leave chasing him. Then he was removed to Firozpur. He had recently finished building a beautiful bungalow for himself, which he could not occupy because of this. He continued moving from place to place in search of some piece of art where his terror would not oppress him anymore, but he could not escape this. Now, some other important things. He used to cry day and night, and sometimes he told his companions that I see snakes following me everywhere, and they are very dangerous snakes which are well trained. Talim yapta is the word. It means they are well educated snakes. They would recognize me and they are going to bite me, strike me, or strike at me, they will bite me. Now, when he was removed to Ludhiana, then where it was his own son-in-law who was residing in Ludhiana, so he was sent to him. There he never reported any snakes in Ludhiana, but instead he started seeing visions of armed people, very scary looking, who suddenly appeared before him and said, "Now you wait and see what happens." So the snakes changed into the vision of armed people. Then he used to cry out and weep and said, No, I'm not that bad, don't do it to me. At last, he published this written statement. He said, मैं आम ईसाइयों के अकीदा और इब्नियत और अलूहियत के साथ मुत्तफिक नहीं. I am not in agreement with the Christian belief, common Christian belief of the sonship of Jesus and his Godhead. What else is rujoo? It is not. How could this prophecy be told to be false? Imagine. And I do not agree with those who acted insultingly against the word aap is used, which in bracket it is said, maybe he meant Mirza Sahib. But I'm sure he meant Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah, because the issue was not his insulting Hazrat Mirza Sahib. The issue right from the beginning was his insulting and abusive language against Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah. So he referred to as aap in Urdu as well. Hazur, like he said, I do not agree with any such people who insult or abuse Hazur, right? Now, after this was over, the Maulvis were waiting to pounce upon Hazrat Muslim ﷺ if this man did not actually die within 15 months. After this, how could he die? I have told you already the tale of people of Jonah and things. It is far clearer than that. Every condition of the prophecy got applicable to this case. Every condition became fulfilled. He was terrorized, he repented, he prayed, he begged Allah with all tazarru, and also announced that he had nothing to do with those of Christians who believe in the divinity of Jesus Christ. Yet, when he did not die physically, then far more than the Christian, largely, in fact, mostly it was the Muslim mullahs who began, launched a tumult of abuses against Hazrat Muslim Islam and danced with pleasure and said, Mirza has become false, Mirza has become false. That man has been proved false by that Christian. What a shame. First of all, no sane man with an iota of truth and honesty and taqwa would have taken this stance. Secondly, Hazrat Mirza Sahib had offered his honor and everything at stake for the sake of Hazrat Muhammad's honor. And these mullahs who claimed that they loved him more, they were enjoying, and there is it's saying in Urdu, Bagle Bajana, which means people of the lowly type, the urchins of the streets, they do this in India to disgrace a man utterly. Instead of clapping, they do this. This is style. So they practically started doing it in streets and everywhere. Look here, Mirza has been defeated by a Christian. And the issue was, is God one or is God three? The issue was, is Hazrat Muhammad holy or not holy? How disgraceful, how dishonorable. And they're still at it. Now when Hazrat Muslim tried to make them see the light of the day by telling them, look here, what are you doing? You're being dishonest to Islam, you're being disloyal to Hazrat Muhammad. It's not me who is involved. It's the enemy against Muhammad whom I took up and confronted on behalf of Islam, on behalf of Hazrat Muhammad. And what are you doing? They wouldn't resist. Then Hazrat Muslim prayed, and it happened, 15 months after this munazara. The munazara had taken place in March of 93. So, I'm sorry, May to June, not March, May to June 93. So, July, August, September, in September, next year, the day 15 months were over, right? So, when Masih Islam saw the misbehavior of the Muslim ulama, then he published a challenge, and not only in the newspapers but also through handbills. A challenge of a quantity of 10,000, in a quantity of 10,000, was widely distributed in the cities. At that time, 10,000 was a very big number. In that challenge, he simply offered this thing. He said, Abdullah Atham is the person I'm addressing. Now you tell the whole world, by swearing by God, that whatever we are telling about you is not true. You tell the whole world by swearing by God that we are lying and you are never afraid, you never repented, you continue to abuse Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and you never said the words like, I do not believe in the divinity of Jesus Christ, etc. Publish this. He refused. He kept dumb over it. And other Christian leaders started representing him, and then at last he himself refused to abide by this, to accept this. He said, in my religion, I can't swear. That is the only reason why I won't do it. So Hazrat Muslim chased him further and said, all right, do this and do that. A year or more passed, and he just would not accept it. Hazrat Muslim said, look here, God has told me this now. It is a chance for you to prove Christianity to be right and Islam to be wrong. That this time, if he swears by God and publishes his statement, then no condition will be attached. Then whether he repents or not, irrelevant to that, within 1 year this man must die. He refused. He never published such a statement. After 2 years of persuasion, from sending people to him, persuading him somehow or the other that he should publish this statement, he wouldn't. Then who was proved right and who was proved wrong? You see? Yet after exerting some patience, Messenger of Islam lost his patience and said, all right, now I will pray to God. I pray to God, and God has made known to me that even if he does not announce the way I have requested him to do, he is going to meet his punishment now anyway. And within a matter of a year of this statement, Abdullah Atham died. Abdullah Atham died. And Messenger of Islam, in the previous announcement after the Munazara, had also said one thing, that the man who is liar, he will die within the life of the man who's true. So in this way, the death of Abdullah Atham, at last, after this dragged out period of disgrace, a disgrace which hit the entire Christian society of the time, which left them totally defenseless, and they kept on running from places, and the life was miserable for them. Dragged out period of 4 to 5 years intervened from the beginning of the Munazara until Abdullah Atham also died, and everything came to a standstill. Everything quietened. But the party which was involved, it did not dare to say that Mirza Sahib has been defeated and Abdullah will do this and that. The Muslim ulama are still shrieking at the maximum of their voices that the champion of Islam got defeated and the champion of Christianity won. This is in nutshell the account of what happened during this historic Munazara Muslim of Islam, historic debate of Muslim of Islam. Please. Hazrat Islam also said one thing, that I am telling you this, I have thrown this challenge to him, but I know that what I have been telling about him, he did this and that, is so right, and because that man was terrified, so he will dare not swear by God to deny my allegations. So he said, if the Christian priests, if they slaughter him alive, he would rather be slaughtered than go through the same experience again by swearing by God that I am wrong and he is right. That's the last. No, what I said was, I inferred this, that he must have died without a disease, without any illness, because in the obituary, in the statement which is published after the death of somebody by way of consolation for his relatives, etc., that's called obituary. In his obituary, the Christians themselves wrote this sentence, that the wrath of God last night fell upon us like a staff which had descended to beat that man and beat Christians. And the sword fell from heaven upon their brother right without the least expectation. For them to express this death in these words indicates that how they were overwhelmed by the fear and terror, and they knew what was happening was being done by God, it was not just by chance. So that's why I said no disease, because how could it be unexpected if he had died of disease? This again, I want to be very correct about this. This statement was attributed to him by somebody who reported it to Hazrat Muslim Islam, and Hazrat Muslim Islam published it. And then following his demand that whatever I have been telling about you, if that is false, swear by God and then you will be stricken. This is how I said it was published. Not directly by him in any paper, any Christian paper, but when people went to meet him and see what was happening to him, when he heard that somebody had come from Qadian or Muslim to inquire things, because sometimes challenges were delivered by hand to him. At one of such occasions, I gather, this is my understanding from how I read this passage from the book of Hazrat Muslim. And someone reported back to Hazrat Muslim that when he brought up this subject, he said that I do not agree with the Christians when they say that Jesus is a divine figure, he is not a human. I do not agree with the Christians when they say that he is a little son of God and shares divinity. So this was published not directly by him, but through report, but was never denied by him. Right? But the time is over now. We will return tomorrow, inshallah, the same time here. And then you will realize what actually happened. Abdullah Atham never claimed that Masih Maud is defeated. The person who should have, the mullahs did. Okay. But we'll meet tomorrow. Right? Assalamu alaikum. Tell them this last bit.
يقول أمير المؤمنين أن الوقت قد أزف وليس لدينا الوقت الكفاية لإكمال الترجمة، فغدا إن شاء الله سوف نتابع الترجمة ونعرف ماذا حدث. فحتى ذلك الحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام عليكم.